I just want to get the word out to people. They should come and see your show. I think this, like you said,
Absolutely.
we should think about civic engagement. We should still be able to laugh about it, even though it's getting harder and harder, as
It's hard.
rushing
Yeah. No,
towards
there's humor
Armageddon
to
date.
mine from this. You have to dig a little bit deeper.
Do you see the crowd? How does it work with your interaction with a Zoom audience?
The show is all on Zoom, and so I can pull up their videos. I can chat with them. And for this part, they're just watching me, but there's a few interactive parts to keep them engaged, and that uses all the Zoom functions. And it's crazy. I feel like this is the equivalent of Michelangelo doing a masterpiece on Microsoft Paint, right? Like, not that I'm Michelangelo, but Kristina Wong working on Zoom, but it's so particular, and it was not built for theater. And I'm just witnessing theater artists try to figure this out, how to make this work, because otherwise it's like we're just not sharing or connecting at all.
Okay. And how do you compensate for the lack of an audience in terms of connection? You can't feel a connection on Zoom, right?
I can see things flash, but luckily we premiered this live for an audience in February, and I have a very good memory of where they were laughing, and I can pause and break for that and hear that. And I actually relearned my lines, had to watch that video a bunch, and it was the best show of my life, because I just felt like I was in the middle of my own HBO special, like every second, even things that weren't that funny and were getting laughs. And so I still have that track in my head that it's there. So if this was a brand new show I was playing out on Zoom, I don't know, but I think because I had that as a precursor, that's going to be interesting. We're also filming this at Center Theater Group at the end of the month. Oh, cool. We have to take the whole set, bring it to the theater, and but it'll be no one in the audience. So that's going to be, it's like I've staged this 3 times, one for an audience, one for my house, and then third for cameras in a theater for no audience.
I talked to a comedian that we were going to have this year before the pandemic, and I said, do you want to do it in Flynn space with no audience? We could do that and then Zoom it. And she was like, comedy in front of no audience? No, I can't know. I'll wait
until
there's an audience again. I won't know if it's good or what they like. It's got to be a back and forth. So I was curious how that worked for you.
It does feel a little cuckoo in the sense that I'm like, are they leaving? Like the first few shows, I was like, oh God, are they still there? Are they leaving? Are they, how many people are here? But I just sort of embraced that. It's like, I'm in an insane asylum and it's my house, and I'm just talking, I'm just giving it all I got in the house, and that's just what it is. That's and great. I think there's a sort of joy as I watch other artists doing stuff alone. There's something very sweet and special about knowing that someone is live in their house, like creating this experience for me, with no editing and no breaks. And so that is sort of the optimism I hold on to, is that someone else is appreciating this little pandemic gift.
Right. It's almost like live TV used to work. But I want to talk about the genesis of the show, because I know we talked about this a long time ago. We were going to have it in our theater last month, a while back, and it was going to be a raucous live event. And the way you pitched it to us back then, it seemed like it was built to be live. And when the pandemic hit, your initial reaction was like, oh, we can't do it. That's dead in the water, so we'll figure something else out to do. But now it's back. So I was wondering if you could talk about the whole journey of the piece.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be a rally. It still now is a rally in my home. So you can see I took my set and put it all over the house. I sleep in that bedroom over there, and I was, my director, Diana Wyan, was like, I think we can do it online. I'm like, there's no way I can go from screaming audiences cheering for me to like talking to a camera. But what I didn't think about was that a camera doesn't have to be static, that this is actually, it's almost like doing a duet on stage with, and like dancing with my laptop, and taking the dramaturgy of my house, instead of having light changes, I just moved to a different room. Yeah. So it was very useful to have, to sort of watch other artists deal with the situation, to watch my director Diana do her own show in her home, which had all these video projections and stuff when it was on a stage, and she translated it to her house, and there are dogs and roommates walking through. And it actually lends itself to a certain intimacy. Like, I think I don't desire to do this for the rest of my life, like do Zoom theater. Like I can't wait to
Zoom theater,
get back.
I see.
But I do think there is a very intimate language to being able to see someone's home, to go, oh, that's what Steve's house looks like. I wonder what's in the bookshelf behind him. Who's that kid? Who's that kid that just wandered in? Like there's
it happened.
There's something that intimate about seeing these very private, not private parts, but seeing these private moments of our lives as we try to conduct the lives we used to have, that I think makes me feel very close to the artist. So a couple examples is when Saturday Night Live had their cast members shoot at home. Right. I felt so warmed by that, like to see that these actors had to make their own props and had to come up with their own costumes and like be their own co-stars in a sketch. I thought that was kind of amazing. And then watching Kamala Harris give her speech, and there's only 15 people in this giant room, and she still pulls it off, right? Like, so I was just like, all right, this is what this is. And this is an election themed show. And this is the time to tour an election themed show, because I made this because I wanted people to think about civic engagement, think about voting. And so it was a really painful month in August of trying to figure out, how do you make sound cues work in Zoom? How do you, how do I light my house for this?
How do you light your house?
Will I sustain an audience? How do I remember half these lines? Because most of my memory was just sort of wiped clear at the start of the pandemic. I couldn't remember any lines. It was really painful, but we got it. And I think it's a really beautiful piece. It's so specific to this moment. And
so it's now or never. You got to do it now, or I also love how you're somebody who strikes me as feel free to correct me anytime I'm wrong, like somebody who's actual, your life is your art almost, in a way. Like it seems like the way you approach your theater pieces, a lot of it, you reflect your own life through your work. And now your apartment is actually a set. Like it's gone deeper than ever.
I often say that I play a character named Kristina Wong, or I play a persona named Kristina Wong. And right now I'm an actual elected official in Koreatown, Los Angeles. Yes. And that's what the show is about. And I'm still we've had to cut rehearsal short because I have to go to a neighborhood council meeting, or, and there's many moments where I play the politician in the neighborhood council, and I at those meetings, and I'm actually pretty reserved in those meetings because, as it turns out, I'm the most normal person on my neighborhood council, and and everyone else is, I'm convinced, performance artists that they are. But yeah, I think a lot of it is my own sort of curiosity about how I approach the world, and reporting back on that in these shows.
A lot of what you just said makes so much sense to me about people who engage in political life. That moment when you're out in public, that is their performance art, right? That's when they are on the stage. Yeah. And for you, that's when you're off the stage. When you're that's kind of wild.
I'm actually the most normal, bored, listening, watching the clock, during these meetings, when I had thought, if I do win, am I going to be like, hey, everybody? And I'm not, because I don't want to drag on these meetings longer. We actually have work to get done, and everyone else is nuts. So why add more nuts to it?
Yeah. So not take away too much from the show, but is being in public office like what you expected?
I think, what I'm learning a lot, there's a lot of empathy I'm learning to have for politicians, because it is, and I play the scene out in the show, it is like being a waiter at a restaurant where a million people want things that aren't even on the menu, and they're all asking for it, and they're going to give you a terrible Yelp review if you can't give it to them right away. And they don't realize that I have to work with a kitchen, I have to work with a food supply, I have to work with a front of house, right? And I think that, it's politicians in a weird way have so many demands made on them, but I think it's also very hard because they have to run making all these crazy promises to try to win over a majority of the vote. So that's one thing I've observed. I also think that they are artists too. It's just their clay is policy,
right?
And that's it's not the most fun. It's not as fun as dancing or painting, but it's
unsexy for sure, right? It doesn't have the
they work with, and a lot of times it's making symbols. It's making symbols with legislation or declaration, or we're going to declare it Steve McQueen Day, in LA. Like these are symbols that we hope lend themselves to real life.
Right. Well, I guess it's no coincidence in American politics that one of our most successful politicians in terms of getting was Reagan, right? He was an actor. It was all like just
the
projection of the persona that he cultivated in Hollywood, right? He knew how to act with the camera.
Yeah.
And he responded to that ability to be comfortable.
Trump too is
yeah, of course.
He's not even a real billionaire, right? But that's what I was so fascinated with. I was like, this guy's a performance artist. Like he's using repetition, he's using chanting, he's using spectacle, and he's almost like piercing every kind of facade that we have of a politician to almost kind of just sort of shock us and make us. I say us, like not actually my candidate, but like that
I get it.
But that for folks, it's like maybe this is an option. Maybe he's that big, strong person that we need.
Yes.
And if you watch his stuff like theater, it's amazing theater.
Very true.
But we live in it. We all live in it.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think he's aware that it's theater. There's none of the self-consciousness that comes with an actual theater artist, right? It's, Andy Kaufman gone to Mars.
Oh God, yeah. It's like it's a very scary version of Andy Kaufman. It's terrifying, but yeah, I mean, I was fascinated watching it, and then I was like, wait, this was supposed to end, and
yes,
and now we're still here. But I also I had a reality television pilot,
right.
Around the time that he was elected, and the pilot didn't go. It was a pilot for True TV. I told the story in the show, and I was finding myself going. I used to be, I was going to be this wacky kind of activist character that didn't quite approach things the right way, but it was so funny to even watch me approach things the wrong way. But it just didn't make sense once Trump was elected, because people weren't apathetic. People to have a naive character in an Asian American body, people were just reading as truth. They weren't seeing it as a character. They were like, oh, she really is a stupid, and so I found myself like, I'm a failed reality TV star, and what do I do with myself as an artist? Because my persona as a wacky artist isn't working anymore. Oh, I guess I'll run for office, which is a very Trumpian
totally
kind of move,
TV stars do, I guess.
Yeah, it's
career path.
It's just another. Yeah, it is a career path. But yeah, I think it's been a crazy trip. I still don't know. I also find myself asking a lot: do politicians have more influence over real life than artists, or do artists have more influence? Right, and I do think it's some sort of combination of the two. That if culture can meet policy in a way, it will move forward. But policy is very slow. Laws are slow.
Let's go back in time a little bit. This is your second trip to Burlington, is that right? Were you here before? But you were here for
was I there?
Were you here before
Wong Street Journal? Wong Street Journal. I did 1 year at Goddard College in Vermont, which is low res. So I did come into Burlington for like a day.
Not as an artist.
But I love Burlington. I think your entire city is about the same size as the neighborhood that I live in. My neighborhood is about 130,000 folks.
It's a greater metro area. Burlington itself is 40,000.
Oh,
believe it or not.
Wow.
It's probably an apartment building or something. I don't know, but yeah, we're small.
But I love Vermont. I mean, I guess I think the first time I was in Vermont was at Sandglass Theater in Putney, and I remember when my tech and I arrived, I said to her, "Do you feel like we're screaming?" I feel like we're screaming, because everyone was just at a different
level,
slower pace, and like us in our like from the city, like it just sounded. I just think it just sounded like we were screaming, but we weren't.
Right.
Like
a bizarre version of Green Acres or something. So you worked with Eric?
Yes. Yeah. And that's a 2,000 person town.
Yeah, that is. And they've been there for a long time doing great work. Inez Bass is one of my heroes. They were doing a show at the Flynn, and she and Eric were walking back after dinner to do the opening night of 3 nights, and she tripped in the park and broke her hand, and did all 3 nights and her hand was like a catcher's mitt. It was swelling, and they were saying we can figure something out, and she was like, I think I can do it, and she toughed it out, like played with pain. MVP.
She's amazing.
Yeah, I was in awe, like a puppeteer with a broken hand, doing those amazing puppets for that.
She is so amazing.
Generation piece. It was spectacular. So.
Yeah, I just love sort of the quiet and the Bernie Sanders-isms and the I don't know, like it just seems like this utopic frontier that because your population is actually going down, right? Vermont's population is like
it wasn't until the pandemic. Judging from Bernie, it seems to be going up right now. I think people want to get out of the city and want to escape to somewhere that handled the pandemic pretty well. So I think we're seeing a huge influx in people flooding in now, but our population had been going down. Yeah, to your point. Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely had fantasies.
I'm from North Florida, South Georgia, and small town North Florida, South Georgia is so different than small town Vermont, right? Like you don't stumble into long established puppet theaters in Valdosta and Georgia.
No.
Vermont's a whole different thing. One great thing you did for us was you introduced us to A2VT. I don't know if you remember them. You found
yes, of course.
They were so tremendous.
Found them, and they're great. I need to get back in touch with them. But the story of Wong Street Journal is that I had made a rap album in northern Uganda, and you all had this great idea that I connect to a music group called A2VT, which is Africa to Vermont, and they're from 3 different African countries. And David Cooper is their Uncle David is like their manager and we just like jammed one night, made a song, they performed after my show, and it was really cool. I mean, I just had so many questions. I was like, what did you like how do you go from Africa to below 0 temperature in Vermont, and how do you make that shift?
Well, we are delighted that you're going to do this. I look forward to having you in person again in the future, but we're really excited about it's coming up Tuesday. Coming this Tuesday.
It is.
So we look forward to it, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me. Yeah, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. We'll get people out. We're going to have a crowd for you. It's going to be fun.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Kristina.
Flynn, I'll see you super in Lincoln and the world. Yeah. Bye-bye.